when you look at how Ferrari has traded relative to its peers, particularly over here in Europe, it's just incredible. I mean, the rise that you've seen since the listing in early 2016. The stock listed a little bit earlier in the U.S., but this is a name that just has been sort of reliably up and up over the years. And I think going into this capital markets day, you saw analysts as bullish as they had been in half a decade. A lot of optimism that surely they were going to have positivity to share. Also sort of early glimpses of the EV that they're bringing to market next year. I think this may have just been a case of the sort of street maybe getting ahead of itself, but also in fairness to the analysts, some real conservatism on the part of the company in terms of where it sees earnings and how quickly it sees earnings growing relative to the last time they had a capital markets day. And those numbers not necessarily being, what everybody was hoping for coming into today.
It was supposed to be a coming out party for their EV model, what the Electrica? I don't even know how you pronounce that, but whatever their car. Electrica, thank you. That's actually a very logical name for an electric car. But Greg, the fact that they did have a complete overshadowing of some of its EVs, which, by the way, they have targets. What does it just mean for the future of EVs and the Electrica at Ferrari?
Yeah, I think the more the time goes by, the more that we see, even in some cases like here in Europe, where month to month we have been seeing growth for EV sales. It's just not been at the sort of level that is needed to sort of reach these levels that everybody was expecting for, say 2035, where the EU wanted to phase out combustion cars by then. It's just becoming, clearer by the day that that's not going to happen. And so, how this gets worked out, especially for some of these lower volume manufacturers, they make the case that, look, we're building, in Ferrari's case, 10, 12,000 vehicles a year. Are you really going to sort of subject us to these rules when we're sort of minnows in this much bigger industry? And I do think that it looks likelier by the day that they will sort of be allowed a longer leash for their combustion engines, and they're adjusting their product portfolio plans accordingly.
Well, I mean, you've made a comment that I hear like almost daily on Bloomberg Radio in one of our promos that I think is true for the most part. Once people go electric, they don't tend to go back to ICE because it's a great propulsion method for most people. But I don't know if people really want an electric Ferrari. Having said that, people who've driven the electric Porsche, the Taycan, love it. And Porsche continues to do horribly badly. What's the problem at the German automaker?
I think Porsche and its peers in Germany, the biggest one for a couple of years now has been China. And I think it's a pretty straightforward one in that, they have, attractive product that does well in other parts of the world. And yet the extent to which we've seen an absolute, just sort of brutal price war playing out in that market. And as we've gone, from combustion to electric, the sort of nightmare scenario is that we just see so much of a sort of commodification of performance and a willingness on the part of domestic manufacturers in China to accept, much lower prices for cars than what, these German companies have become accustomed to being able to charge, which is, big fat premiums that are nice for their bottom line. And, so you have that as being a big factor. You also have U.S. tariffs being a real problem for Porsche. I think the combination of that, along with the malaise that we're seeing in Germany, it's kind of a trifecta of issues for this company that is really difficult for them to sort of shake out of.